With the 2025 NFL Draft coming up, there's been a rising prospect, Ole Miss quarterback Jaxon Dart. In this video, I'm going to break down his stats, where he shines most, if he's really a first-round draft prospect, but most importantly, what team he should land on. Remember, this video is completely my opinion. If you have a different opinion, please leave it down in the comment section below. Coming out of high school, Jaxon Dart was a 4-star quarterback and ranked number 13 in his entire class. He originally committed to USC. As a true freshman, he only showed up in about 6 games, where he threw for 9 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. In an article written in 2022, Jaxon Dart said that the reason that he switched to Ole Miss was because the playbook was electric and quarterback friendly. In 2022, he went for 2,974 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. The season was alright for Jaxon Dart, only going 8-5 and then losing his bowl game. Heading into 2023, Jaxon Dart's stat line would significantly improve. He had 3,364 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. This season was great for not only Jaxon Dart, but also the entirety of Ole Miss. Ole Miss went 11-2 this season and then even ended up beating Penn State in the Beach Bowl. There was high expectations for Ole Miss coming to the next season. Some people had them winning a national championship, and some even had Jaxon Dart being the Heisman. In the 2024 season, I'm going to go to a little bit more in depth about Jaxon Dart's stats. This is really what threw him up people's draft boards. In the 2024 season, Ole Miss came ranked at number 6 in the entire nation. In the 2024 college football season, Jaxon Dart threw for 4,000 plus yards, 29 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. This was Jaxon Dart's breakout year. People said that Jaxon Dart's stats were inflated because he was playing good during non-important games. Let's take a look into what games he played well in and what games he didn't play well in. First one that comes to mind was the first game of the season whenever they played against Furman. Jaxon Dart's stat line was crazy here. He had 5 touchdowns with 0 interceptions for 418 yards. Only 1 week later, Jaxon Dart played Middle Tennessee. He had 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, and 377 yards. The next 2 games on their schedule was Wake Forest and Georgia Southern, another easy 2 wins for the Rebels team. Combining these 2 games, the total score would be 92-19. The combined stat line for Jaxon Dart in these 2 games would be 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He also had a combined stat of 759 yards. That means with all of these stats combined, he threw for 1,554 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. With that all being said, that means that 36% of his yards came from these 4 games alone. That also means that 41% of his touchdowns came from these 4 games alone. This is not to completely discredit Jaxon Dart or even Ole Miss, because their team did some crazy things this season. While a loss to Kentucky isn't great, Jaxon Dart still performed well by throwing 261 yards and 1 touchdown. After that, they would get a good win against South Carolina, winning 27-3, where Jaxon Dart would throw 1 touchdown and 1 interception. People are getting confused because this wasn't the Jaxon Dart they were used to seeing, throwing multiple touchdowns a game and no interceptions. Over the next 2 weeks, whenever they would face LSU and Oklahoma, Jaxon Dart would only have a combined touchdown to interception ratio of 2-1. With a lot of question marks heading into week 9, Jaxon Dart wanted to prove that he's more than a game manager and can throw multiple touchdowns in 1 game. Whenever Jaxon Dart went out there to face Arkansas, he set out and put 515 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions on the field. The most touchdown passes Jaxon Dart would throw in 1 game for the rest of the year would be 2. That would be against Florida, where he had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 326 yards. You might be asking why this is even important at all. Well, this means that 48% of Jaxon Dart's yards came from blowout games. Taking those yards away, that means that Jaxon Dart only passed for 2,210 yards. On top of that, 62% of his touchdown passes also came from those said blowout games. He would only have around 11 touchdown passes if he didn't play in those games. I'm not saying to take those stats away from him. This just proves the point that Jaxon Dart only really performs well in games that aren't important, aren't against good competition. Does this make Jaxon Dart a bad quarterback? No, it really doesn't. I'm going to explain here why. Jaxon Dart has amazing arm talent. His legs are also something not to forget about. He didn't have any rushing touchdowns, but he had 495 yards on the ground himself. Jaxon Dart definitely isn't elite, but he's also not a bad quarterback. Do I think Jaxon Dart's a first-round talent? Absolutely not. Here's why Jaxon Dart is getting projected higher than he really is. This is a really weak quarterback class, and teams are trying to find a new quarterback as soon as possible. Second, he had a super good Senior Bowl. For the Senior Bowl, he was projected to be a day 3 or round 3 guy. After the Senior Bowl, he was projected to be a round 1 guy. But at the end of the day, that's what the Senior Bowl is for, to put a spotlight on players who don't have it already. But I think the media put his draft stock way higher than it should have been. And on top of that, I think this is just already a bad quarterback class, and scouts and GMs are looking for an answer at quarterback. Realistically, Jaxon Dart needs a lot of time to develop before he can be a starting quarterback for any NFL team. There is no Furman, there is no Georgia Southern, and there is no Arkansas. There's no random FCS schools you can beat up in the middle of the season to boost your stats. I don't think Jaxon Dart is a bad quarterback. He just needs time to develop under a good quarterback coach. With that all being said, I think here are some likely landing spots for Jaxon Dart. I think the Seahawks or the 49ers would be a great landing spot for Jaxon Dart. This would give him time to develop under Geno Smith or Brock Purdy and under a great coach like Kyle Shanahan. But that's my take on Jaxon Dart. What do you guys have to say about him? What round do you think he should go in? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.